With that, good morning, good evening, and good morning in India. Namaste, everyone. So we are here again for the session for the dialogue session for the library create. And today I'm really excited because I have one of my best friends and former colleague, David Anderson. David is a visionary leader, and me and him, we are working on many projects together. We have worked on many projects, and we are still working on many things together outside work. We keep talking to each other, and then I brought to him about the library create mission, and he was very excited to talk about it. So, David, I'll share a screen. We have your brief bio here. So, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is David, visionary leader. Ram told her. I'm hoping he is correct with that. Definitely would describe myself as a leader for the last 20 years. Don't like the word manager as much because it's kind of like directing and not giving. So I'm definitely into like leading people and empower them. And so I was born in Sweden. Getting too old now, getting older in 1980, coming from a small town, industrial town called Sandviken, and they still make a lot of steel there and steel products. Drills for mine, high technology solutions. I never got to really work there, but I think I was instilled with a lot of mindset on how to do hard work and how to be how important your education is to climb the ladder. So, I guess I did that instead of joining the steel energy industry because I entered the master degree program of engineering physics in Uppsala. Wasn't really sure what I was going to do when I grow up, so I picked something that you kind of like don't lock yourself into a specific role. It is an engineering program, but it's kind of open because what the teacher there is to solve problems, and those of you who are going engineering knows this. And you get really sharp at looking at problems from different angles and being able to dissect it like in a short period of time. Instead of staying though in the academic world, I was quickly recruited by a company called Saab. You may know them from like producing cars and such. But what they do now, that part was long gone, like gone in the 90s, and unfortunately no longer with us. I love that car. But this company instead were developing they're still developing security solution and military defense solutions. So I was hired there, while I was working, and I think one of the reasons that happened to me was actually a recession at the time, and people had a hard time to find work. So I thought, I joined one of those exhibition where companies and academics were showing what they got, and I took it quite seriously. So I walked around and talked to people there. And it was specifically this guy from Saab who I really got fond of, and we kept in contact, shortly after. And I think a week after we were done with that, he had fixed me a thesis job. Like I got paid to write the thesis there, and the thesis was the topic of the thesis was speech recognition. So this was back in 2003, so it was kind of early on that front. I mean, now everyone talked on the phone, and you're able to command, and it's fairly accurate for everyone now. But at that time, you kind of had to, to get something really good, you had to like partner up with some high technology, in high technology. What's it called? So there's a university in Stockholm called Royal Institute of Technology, and there was a guy that's doing his doctoral thesis, and he had his new way of accurately doing performance speech recognition. So I partnered up with him because it was way better than anything else was said. and that just created a really good a good system to showing off what we got for customers. So I probably spent like a couple of years developing that together with him, and we had a few people at the company was helping too. So I at that time started to in my role as a project manager, and it kind of slid into agile development. And that's what I said earlier, like I like to be referred to as a leader, because I kind of learned that mindset
Servant leader, right?
yeah, exactly.
I remember your term referring to. Yeah.
So as an agile leader, you're supposed, to be really successful, you're supposed to like enable your team, and doing that by basically making sure that people are enjoying themselves, they are thriving, because that's when you really can make 1+1 become 3.
Yep, that's true.
So I really enjoyed that, while also thinking that the well, by the way, the speech recognition software we had, the toughest thing we did was that we because when we had all this demo, oh, that's great, it's functioning in this optimal environment where we're sitting at the desk. And so because I had this guy with me, we trained this model for functioning with air microphone in a tank, in a in a Leopard tank. It's made in Germany. It's like, I don't remember, I think like 100 tons or something. So quite heavy, and you can't talk in there, and you don't hear what the other person say if you sit next to each other. So, but he had those air microphone, and we trained the software there, and we drove around making a movie how we could still make the computer understand what we're doing in that environment. So that was probably one of the coolest things I did there, and I still have the video. I can show that sometime, perhaps. But so I was quite fond of technology, and also to work and enable people in that space. So as I said, I started with that speech recognition role, and a couple of years later, I managed a large scale development of a security software program. And then it rolled on from there. I met my wife, and then she grabbed me, and we moved to Canada. And I've been here in Toronto since 2011. My focus at that time was to develop program within the grocery space. So amongst other things, I was a part of I managed the front end development of the grocery offering for Walmart Canada. So that was back in 2014, I think. I had another grocery related job before that. So I slipped into that to that category, but then I started to manage more like wide scale programs, ranging from grocery over to the equipment on car. Me and Ram worked on fitting parts on a 3D AR vehicle, amongst other things. And now I'm working on enterprise solution to deliver the right capability to various stakeholders as a large company. So participating with a lot of folks, interacting, integrating, working with other people, and through machines. So that's where I am today.
Great. I think exciting journey. You like traveled across and then worked in various areas, and I think we talked about it earlier. So you wanted to keep today's session about like how to present yourself, because our
Yeah.
audience is mostly in India, and high school kids, some college kids as well. And how do we coach them? How do we prepare them so they have all the dimensions? It's just not the study, but like other than study, like what else they can do. Is there are sports, there is art, there are different dimensions, right? That in today's generation we need to have all of them. And kids in bigger cities are naturally aware about those things, but in rural areas still, you know, the academics is the only medium, right, that you feel that is way to get the job, right? So I think that's really good topic. But before we get into that, I would love to know what you know about India. Like, what's your impression, and how much you know?
I would love to go again. I've been there once, just before the pandemic, actually. I think a couple of months before, 3-4 months before. I went to Bangalore. At the
Mhm.
time, I was working with Walmart. So they invited me there, and I got to see Walmart side, but also, so we're an agent. I work for an agency that serves multiple clients. The client at the
Mm-hmm.
time was Walmart. So I went there with Walmart leadership, and I had the benefit of meeting the Walmart team in India and working with them for a week. And also then the agency that I come from also has a lot of employees there. So I had the benefit of meeting with them as well. Didn't work as much with them because I was in the middle of, like I usually am, like in the middle of like developing something and launching something in production. So it was a really good opportunity to go and we meet my Walmart chain friends and tie some connection with them. And I think that made a big difference. I think, coming to a
Yeah.
country I never been to before, and the airport ride from the airport to the hotel was a little bit scary. It's a lot of cars, and but the driver was awesome, so it went well.
Yeah.
But from that, like, I mean, the food was amazing. I love Indian food as well, and the people there are all the people I met were great.
Yeah. And I think you made so many friends when we were doing the project together. So you definitely have love for the culture. And if
Yeah.
you want to eat the best food, Indian food, then you need to visit Chicago soon. Um, but I also forgot to introduce Vinod Sharma. He's joining from Jora. He's the director and founder for the Central Academy School in Jora, which is like a small town, very small town in the central state, which is called Madhya Pradesh. And I also come from there. So in the state of
Oh, cool.
Madhya Pradesh, there's a big town called Gwalior, and then around 40 kilometers from there, there is very small city, Jora. So that's where he's from. So he's also there. Feel free to ask your questions. But in the topic that we wanted to talk, what I wanted to ask, like how individuals effectively can make a memorable first impression. That means like what are some key elements or behavior that contribute to creating a positive and lasting impact when meeting someone for the first time. I mean, that's what coming into my mind when I was like thinking about this topic, like how you make your first impression.
Yeah, I think if you ask me, like, I think for me, it's been many, many times throughout, before my career started, and then it kicked off with what I was telling you earlier about when I got that thesis job that turned into like a full-time employment at the time during the recession. I think it's really good to go and showcase, what you're good at without bragging, and it's okay to be nervous, by the way. I don't think that matters. But to get the courage and go in and talk and not be repetitive, but to be mindful about people's time. Um, you know, talk about what you're good at, but maybe throw in a fun fact or two about what you do in your spare time. I mean, that kind of colors a bit on who you are and what you're about. It's just so hard when you're sitting and apply. I had that situation when I came to Canada, so I just quit my job in Sweden. I came to Canada and I started watching on LinkedIn and trying to connect to people, and it's hard behind the screen, right?
Yeah.
So, if you get the opportunity to go and talk to people, take it, because that really could form a better impression of yourself versus being one of the like I saw myself when I searched for my job. I think it took me 3 months to land my first gig here in Canada, which I thought was an eternity, and you know but I didn't necessarily go out. I had the benefit to go out meeting folks. When I did, I kind of got into it more and it went faster.
Yeah.
So it's about like getting that opportunity somehow, right? And you can get that through, I mean, like me, job fairs maybe, but also volunteering and showing your
Yeah.
skills. Like you
That's
can
right.
build partnership. I think that's a
I
really good way of going about it.
That's true actually, and also be real, right? Sometimes we think in the box that the interviewer or the person who's on the other side of the table is setting for us, right? We need to think outside the box. We need to just like talk about our own passion. And I think we should also like encourage kids to just make the journey in the area where they are really passionate about, because then they can talk from the heart, right? And I think you brought really good point about the internship, which I think when I if I remember my childhood and my days in school and high school, even in college, we did not have concept of the internship there. Like we had no idea of like that you can go and work in a restaurant, or you can work in a pharmacy, or you can work in an area where you want to pursue your career. And not only the pursue the career, but you get the experience. You know how to talk to people. You know how to present to others, and how do you deal in different situations. So I think that experience that you take from the internship is also very important. I think for kids like in the high school and higher secondary, like they should not hesitate to work outside their academics, right? They should be ready, right, to
Yeah.
go out and just not just earning money, but also just to get the experience. They should
Mm.
not hesitate in the area
Yeah,
which
and
they really like to do something. Yeah.
absolutely. And I thought about what you said, Ram, about, be truthful. Because at the end of the day, if you're like fooling yourself onto trying to press yourself where you don't really want to be, you're not going to perform as good, and you're not going to like it as much either. So it's really good to be open and
Yeah.
honest. And when you're into those conversations, maybe you find a connection like that they connect well with. Not necessarily you have to speak about work either, right? It could be other common interest, and you get a phone number, you get an email, and
Yeah.
later on you can connect about other things. So it's like to be truthful and not necessarily go directly into talking about the job, right?
Yep.
But also like form a relationship. Uh,
Yeah. That's
I
true.
think I think for me that's important. And if I think about the people that works with me and for me and how they connect with me, I mean, if I have a position open and for the company that I work with, and I know someone, I will call them and check them out, because not necessarily because they saw the job posting, but because I know they would be suitable. So the bigger contact net you have, the better it is, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's true. I mean, I always tell my kids, and I wish I was able to think about this 20 years or 30 years back, because then I would have had a different lens and different approach to start my journey. But still, I'm proud of my journey, but it would have been better. And the thing that I tell to them now is that life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So just take your time, right? Just keep your
yeah,
pace. You don't need to like run high. You don't need to like impress someone. And it's like in one meeting, like as you said, you took 3 months. It's okay as long as you are happy in your journey. Recently there was a movie, actually very it's getting really popular. This guy, like from very nearby village where I come from, and he continued his journey for many years, and then he like was able to successfully sort of pass the exam, which was very tough, and through that exam you become the highest officer in the Indian administrative service.
mm,
He came from a very poor background. He had very poor academic record in his high school in his undergraduate and graduation, but he continued his passion, what he want to become. And the movie is all about that, because it teaches you no matter like how has your journey been, what background you come from, but as long as you keep working continuously, you are like truthful, and your journey is truthful, and you are like really committed, you will get the success. So I think all what you are saying is, I think I was just thinking about that movie, like it's so true, right?
yeah,
You don't need to like we just like, I think, make so many mistakes because we are fearful of failure, right? That's the and if you remember like the project that we did together, I think the mantra that we did tell to our teams, which made us immensely successful in that project or those projects, like, was that don't worry, just experiment, right? Don't worry about the failures. So yeah.
and in fact the failures are the greatest opportunity to learn something new, right? And
Right.
it's an important part of learning, I think.
Yeah. That's true. I would like to ask Vinod Sarmaji, do you have any question? I hope you are able to listen us. Just wanted to make sure I give you the opportunity.
You are asking well. I am only hearing.
You are able to hear? Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, feel free to ask questions if you have. But like one thing I wanted to ask, like how do you balance like this? So far we talked about how you present yourself, but if you're presenting yourself, um, and you're talking about your achievement, how do you balance it out, marketing yourself while being real? Because that's another thing, like I see with the young people, like you know, they see a lot of things in the reels, they saw a lot of things in the social media, and everything is like so flashy,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Because
No,
and I was
definitely.
like, yeah, I was like, I was telling another thing my kids, and then I let you like answer that. Sometimes in the pursuit of perfection we attain nothing. So should they wait for the perfection, or how should they present their achievements, like?
No, I think you should be a bit careful to like overdo it, because matter of fact, it's like recruiters get a lot of, like, let's say you're sending out you don't even know a person, you're sending in your CV and a letter, and it's pitch perfect. Then they're gonna think maybe it's fake because it's too good, So if you can balance it out with some personal fact, and you know throw in a, not maybe joke, but a little light-hearted comment here and there. It could be for a good benefit, because we're all humans, and if we're gonna be that perfect, you might just being looked at being a little bit robotic, right? Because we know we want to hear this, and it's sums up perfectly what we want, but it's too good. So to stand out from the crowd, I think it's good to be throwing in a curveball a little bit. It's hard though when it comes to, like, if you don't have the connection, right, and it comes to just a CV. So
Mm-hmm.
it's but when you have that opportunity to meet, I think that's really you know I mean, personally, I like people who can be a little bit you know relaxed and not too strict.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to interview, of course, it's you need to be formal and all that, but to talk a little bit off the chart, like when you start, before you start, like that always lighten mood a bit. And um, if you go too much into being a perfect fit, then it might just come off a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
It might come off like it's not real. So I have a good friend who's a recruiter, and he sometimes shows me this. This is too good to be true. You know, he showed me that a few times, and like that's not a plus, right? Because it's too picture perfect, and it
Mm-hmm.
seems like it's not a human applying for this position. So he'll do his due diligence anyway. But if imagine if you have 100 person to review, that might not be the first one that stands out, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think it's two different things. It's like when you meet someone in person, or through a meeting, or like through a
Yeah.
chat like this, it's like easier to calm down a bit and not be, you know, like I said, we're all humans.
Yeah.
We're working 8 hours, ideally 5 days a week, right? So, and then there's ups and downs, but if you can have a little bit of fun during that time, I think, at least for myself, I couldn't work in a strict place where you have to have a suit and be extremely word correct all the time. I wouldn't like it. Some people may do, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. uh,
I think it's all
I,
about that. How can you overcome your fear? You don't need to worry about who you are talking, and it's difficult, I know. But let me ask you this thing, like a little bit different, because people are listening to this are also like kids in high school in rural areas. I think that
yeah.
that's our target audience. So how
Mm.
they can prepare themselves at that time in high school itself? Now you go back 20 years back in your high school and think about it. If you had the glasses that you are having now, the knowledge, the wisdom, the glasses of wisdom, right? What would you tell them, like how they can prepare themselves now to present like in effective manner in like
Yeah,
20?
I think it goes back to that, and we didn't have enough of that. Like, if you can actually, the more like you can train on presenting itself,
Yeah.
the better you're going to be off. I think Americans are pretty good at that. They have that, a lot in their school system. In Sweden, it was not a lot of that. So, that would have helped me for sure. And then to prepare for something like that, you can work together with your friend. And when especially earlier on in my career, when I wanted to do like something important, like you have a session and there might be 100 people listening and such, I always encourage people to, like, write down a script. If you have 5 minutes, write down the script and just practice for a few hours, until because it's not good either if you go and if you're going to give a speech, for instance, that you read
Yeah,
on their
that's true.
note, right? So, a little bit of preparation, and that goes even for me today. Like, you go into something that is important, but it is something you should deliver. But preparation goes, even 5 minutes preparation goes a long way. So if you're going to have this important talk, go to your friend, play a role-playing game, where
Yeah,
you can answer some typical questions, and maybe tell your story and see what they think, and then you can
yeah,
talk about it and you can improve, and then you talk to your next friend and you do the same thing if it's really important, right? I think that kind of role playing and then working together is a
yeah,
great way of learning how to interact and such. And it's
yeah,
going to be hard until you've done a few. Like, if you think about interviews, right, specifically, it's going to be hard until you've done a few, but you can practice it.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, when I was doing my undergraduate, you won't believe I did not know English really well that time, you know, because I just knew like just to kind of pass the exam, English exam. That's it,
Yeah,
English
yeah,
paper. But I did not know but I used to read the newspapers that time. So my father made sure that I'm getting English newspaper, and I used to read entire from page one to like 10th or 20th, whatever page. That
perfect.
also gave me like the the practice, right? And just like trying to talk
Yeah,
without having that fear that okay, whatever the other person is thinking, whatever, like wherever you have difficulty, definitely English is one area that kids like from other countries where English is not a primary language. If we are living in a global world, you need to prepare yourself in English.
yeah.
And times are changing now. Other language are also becoming powerful, but English itself, it is still a, I think, primary like medium of communication. But one example, right? How you can like prepare yourself like by just like having that continuous practice and practice and practice.
Yeah, that reminds me of two things. First,
Yeah,
the English part. Then,
yeah,
for a Swedish person, it's relatively easy actually, because Swedes is probably one of the best countries of English that isn't like native English speaking. And one of the facts that why it is like that. So Swedish. So if you go to the cinema in Sweden, it's never dubbed in Swedish. Maybe for some kids movie, but generally not. They have subtitles under. So I
mm,
would encourage you to watch the English movie with English
yeah.
subtitles, or if you
That's
don't understand it so well, watch
Hindi
it
subtitles, right?
with
Like
your
English
yeah.
movie, Hindi subtitles. Yeah.
Yeah, so even now I'm stuck here, in Canada. Like, I always turn on the subtitles, because then also you don't have to loud volume and the kids can sleep. So,
But you turn
so
on English subtitles, not
yeah,
Swedish.
still.
Okay.
But I mean, that was when I grew up. It
Yeah.
was defaulted in Swedish, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Before
Yeah.
the digital era, but once you get DVD and stuff, you can choose. I
Yeah.
think start off for your language, and then as you get better,
Yeah.
uh, switch on English, because then you see the English word, you're going to automatically learn. You won't practice your speech. There's apps for that, or to practice. Duolingo is an app
I
for
love
learning
it.
languages.
I
Yeah,
love that actually. That's a very good advice. Like, watching English movies with, if you don't understand, the subtitle can be your own language or can be English, whatever, right? At least you can
yeah.
read. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and start doing that. And if you enjoy movies, otherwise I'm sure there's other ways. But
Yeah.
for the magic, but why like Sweden and most Scandinavian countries are like that is because we didn't have dubbed.
Yeah. So maybe I think a
Content.
good thing for school managers, right? Like they can have a 30 minutes documentary, like BBC or Geographic
Yeah,
Channel documentary played. Like I think Sarmaji, for you, like 30 minutes or 1 hour documentary being played in a week, like 1 hour, and then subtitles are on, right? That way kids are like listening some that English in the school itself, and
Absolutely.
then
Yeah,
encourage to do that at home as well, right?
exactly. I think that would make a difference for sure.
Yeah,
And the second thing I was thinking about when it comes to like you said you read a newspaper and maybe the intent to learn English, right?
yeah,
So I did the same when I came here, more to the intent of, because you know, I do lead teams, and we usually have like a larger development team that I interact with daily and such. But also I partner with. So usually we have a client, right, and we're one. The role that we usually have from our company is we come in and we do a full-blown solution for them. But to do
yeah,
that solution, we're not having all the answers, right? So we're going to have to work with maybe company A, B, and C. And if you remember Sora, for instance, when we worked with them, RAM, right, that went pretty smooth. So if you have open mindset there, and you actually know what's going on a little bit in the world, read the newspaper, and then you can have like a more lighthearted discussion. It's good to know what's going on anyway, but it's specifically good if you're working with other companies and you have something to talk about, and you can shoot the shit a little bit. That's
yeah,
helpful.
yeah. No, good tips. I love them actually. Those are the things, if like it's watching, they can, if they can like do these two things, they will see great difference in their like presenting themselves, practicing, different language and all that. So I think we are at 30 minutes. I can go on, but I would like to ask you, like, finally, like, like we usually do it this with kids. Like, kids are in the school on the other side, they are listening us, they are ready to ask questions.
Mm.
But I usually bring Hindi speaking people. It's easy, like talking in Hindi, right? And for you, like for the guest also to understand. But we would love to have you with them when the schools are on now. The schools are off for last 2 weeks, but we would love to have you again when the schools are back, and maybe you can
Let's
interact.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
It's fun. We can do it a little bit later nowadays, so it doesn't have to be 6 o'clock for the student.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that will be
Yeah,
2-3 hours later, but
yeah, that's okay.
definitely I enjoyed our discussion. Thanks again, finding time and chatting with Library Create. Really appreciate your time.
That was fun.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Hopefully something could help that we talked about for those who are listening. So thank you.
yep. Thank you. Yep. Okay, bye.